What the f?
Hi, this video is going to be all about movement. Oh, not that kind of movement. The kind that makes you walk or run, I guess. Yeah, this kind. In the last devlog, we created the character for my RPG game. By the way, his name is AO. I don't know, just the idea of having a lot of vowels in the name sounds cool to me. You can let me know in the comments what you think about that. At this point, the character looks extremely pasty because it doesn't have any texture, so it's just white color. But I guess painting the character will be my future problem because now I just want to focus on the animation and how I'm going to prepare the character for it to start jumping, running, and potentially fighting, mining, and doing all sorts of stuff. And since it's modeled and ready from my last devlog, I can start working on that. It's not ready? Well, luckily I realized in early stages that my approach to the mesh topology of my character is wrong, and that these quads that created the mesh shouldn't be spread evenly throughout the character. Instead, it should be based on the muscle mass. So when bending wouldn't look broken, and I had to adjust that quickly. Oh guys, this won't be the last mistake that I made. This video is going to be full of it. I even wonder if making this video is a mistake by itself. But yeah, anyway, now we are good and we're back on track. So if you are wondering how a standing still character like this could start moving in different ways, such as running and jumping, I'll try to explain. This is the 3D model of our character, and you can see that you are able to manipulate and adjust the mesh that made this character by just moving it like this. But let's say I want this character to bend his arm. If I'm going to do it manually by just adjusting the mesh, it could be a really tedious exercise. So that's why we need something different. We need to create a skeleton that can control the character the same way that the skeleton in our body defines our movements. And this process called rigging, which allows you to create the bones and link them together to form the body skeleton, then bind it with the skin of the character, which is an empty shell that created before. And as a result, now we just move this bone and then the arm bend by itself. Yeah, it looks cool. But still, as you can see, we have a problem here. Because if you look closely to the joints of each bone, you notice that the skin is not distorted properly, and sometimes the mesh breaks or overlap with itself. And that leads us to the second phase of the process, of which manually we need to adjust the strength of the distortion that affects the skin in the joints area, by painting the weights. Like this. So we will have our character rigged and ready to add whatever animation we want to it. And that's exactly what I did. When I started the rigging process, I had three options. Either I could do it manually by creating each bone by itself, which is a hard process, or I could use a plugin in my 3D software that automatically rigs my character, or I can use a really great free online tool created by Adobe called Mixamo, for which you just upload your character shell, and with few steps, it automatically adds the skeleton to it with a huge library of different animations that you can download for free to add to your game engine. So, as you imagined, it wasn't a big brainer for me to choose Mixamo. And just like that, here's the character. Now it's doing its thing, and voila! It's been animated in any way you can imagine. Just choose the animation from the library, and it applies it to your character. Oh, I loved it. But still though, after that I had to paint the weights and adjust the bones manually, because Mixamo only provides the skeleton to the main body. But if you want some other part of your character to be moved, like the hair in our case, we need to add it manually some extra bones to it afterward. And also probably in the future I'm going to make the character able to talk, move its lips and blinks, and do all sorts of facial expressions, like laughing, crying, getting angry, and unfortunately Mixamo doesn't provide that. So I'll probably have to use the plugin that we talked about in order to do so. So eventually I will end up using all three methods together in order to get the final product. And of course, throughout the process I had to go through a lot of tutorials, because it's true that I am an animator, but the 2D kind of animation, the one that you have to draw frame by frame, not the one that you have to create skeletons and move bones and stuff. And because of that, I made a lot of mistakes. The main one was that I didn't know that in order for the character to be rigged properly in Mixamo, it needed to be 100% symmetrical. So all these vertices on the right side of the character should match the left side exactly if it's flipped. Otherwise, you'll have a lot of problems when applying the animation to it. But yeah, that's how you learn from your own mistakes. Or you can find the links of the tutorials that I used rigging my character in the description below. So hopefully you won't fall for them yourself. At this point, we have our character animated and doing all kinds of movements, walking, running, and whatever we need in order for us to start the game. And as you noticed from the last devlog, I modeled my character nude, because in the game I'm going to make him equip different equipments such as armor, hat, gloves, and boots, and so on. So naive me thought maybe it would be a good idea to model a nude character first, rig it and animate it, then I could model those equipment and add them on top of the character and switch between them if I wanted them to be changed. I mean, in my own defense, this logic sounds reasonable, right? But in reality, I was stumbling in the dark here, because I had no idea how technically I could do that. I mean, there was a lot of tutorials talking about the subject, but all of them required an advanced skill in Unreal Engine in order for me to understand what they are even talking about. So I thought, okay, this is tomorrow's problem, and let's today focus on the art, and I went with that plan. And of course that was a mistake, because later on I figured that when animating the character with the equipments on, the geometry of the character's skin will overlap with the geometry of the equipment, which make them look broken. And suddenly part of the skin appeared on top of the armor. And realized after becoming a bit more advanced in Unreal Engine that I must split the character into different pieces, the legs, chest, head, arms, hands, and boots, and in order to change equipment, you switch between those parts. So you switch the new chest with the armor and not just adding the armor on top of it. And you see here under the armor there is no skin. And by doing so, we avoid the overlapping geometry problem. But what can I do? It's the hard way to learn, and I hope someone will see my video and learn from my mistakes before making the same error. But guys, now the fun begins, because at this point I created a new Unreal Engine project, then imported the character to it and made a basic material that contains only the normal map, which is, by the way, the one that gives the texture the sense of depth. And while I had a huge library of animation for free that I could download from Mixamo, I stumbled upon really great motion pack in Unreal Engine, and I felt that it contains a lot of animation that could be helpful for me, especially in the beginning when I'm going to test the game controls. While I'm still sticking with my decision to produce all the game assets myself, although regarding the animations, I could use this pack as a starting point, adjust on it to create my own. So after a tedious process that I had to go through in order to apply these animations into my character using a technique called retargeting, my character will look and move like this. And by the way, this retargeting process would have its own video, but I'm gonna skip that because it's extremely technical. So I'd like to thank you all for watching my second devlog. You guys are awesome and I really appreciate your support. Next time I'm going to work on adding controls to the character and maybe add some elements to the environment, so feel free to tell me your thoughts in the comments. I'll be more than happy to read them all. And I'd like to mention that I recently created a Discord server for the game, so you can check it out and join the conversation there. And if you want to support my work, please find my Patreon link in the description below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you again for watching and see you in the next video. Bye.